Now, before we end off the show here, as we are surpassed 2 a.m. now Eastern time, I do want to touch on Sacramento briefly. Now, if Boston really this 2-day rest after flying around, like we said, this really weird location, Minnesota, then down to Houston, then up to OKC, and then over more west to Denver. So a really nice opportunity here for Boston to fly home, get some rest, get their legs under them. Are we expecting Boston to come out a little flat here against Oklahoma with 2 days rests after a long road trip?
That's always something that, is a question, but that's also an excuse. And if there was this Celtics team, and I understand that we've kind of harped on they've been kind of struggling this past month. It was something that the Celtics team is really good at not doing is using excuses. They don't let that factor in. Second night's a back-to-back. Play back to that Houston game earlier in the week last week. Celtics second night of a back-to-back, missing some players, flew into Houston, had to fly, as far as up north as you could, other than Toronto, down to the south, down to Houston. They could have used every excuse in the book. Instead, what did they do? They went and blew out the 2-seeded Houston Rockets. So for me, this is kind of a game where I do expect the Celtics to have a little jet lag, but at the same time, I think it's huge that you get 2 days in between. Obviously you'll have tomorrow and what is it, Thursday off before playing Friday. Also, this, the Western Conference, yes, I do understand there are some teams, Sacramento and New Orleans towards the bottom of the standings in the Western Conference, but Sacramento's been heating up. They're winners of their last 5. They have DeMar DeRozan, De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, still have a very established big 3 out there that even though they haven't had a strong start to the season, they're a dangerous team out west, and they're one of those teams that you look at and one day they're a top 5 seed in the West, and then next day they're a play-in team. That's how tight the Western Conference is. So Boston needs to take this team seriously, and they need to come out Friday, come home, and get a big win.
Yeah, I think the Kings are going to be a very good home challenge for the Celtics. Keita's former team, so it might be able to see a revenge game. Just saying that because Randy just joined in on the vlog but on the post game, but I think that it's 2 o'clock. It's fine. But
anytime you screw up tonight, guys, it's 2 a.m.
On the vlog.
I read Randy vlogs, and that was just the word that popped in my head. But
Nimi tonight minus a lead team low -10 tonight.
Yeah. But I think that the Kings are a team that really
don't start the Joel Embiid.
I'm not even going to show that comment, but I think the Kings are a really interesting team who have really picked it up since they fired their coach, and I think that they're a team that can turn things around, kind of muck things up in the play-in tournament, and always with the beam, but there's no beam in Boston, so I think the Celtics should be able to come out and make a really big statement win.
Bean.
Oh,
we're not even going to let Seamus get his final thoughts. We're just going to end it.
Not bad. That's not bad. That's not bad.
Cue the music.
Looking ahead at this next stretch for the Celtics, I believe this is going to be a crucial stretch in which the Celtics have to pull out a couple wins and if not go 4-1 here, because you have the Kings at home when you come back. Then you have the Pelicans, who are just awful this season. I don't think anybody projected them to be this awful. I know they've had a bunch of injuries, but even with some of the guys they've had in, you maybe expect a little bit better of a record, although you look at the top of who's been playing the most, and maybe you don't. But after that, the only road game in which the Celtics play until January 20th, when we go back out onto the West Coast again, is against the Toronto Raptors, and that's a quick flight over Boston to Toronto. It's really not that far. So you have you have the Kings at home, the Pelicans at home, you have the Raptors on the road, and then you have the Magic and the Hawks at home. So this is a stretch in which the Celtics, they're playing more mediocre teams in which they can grab wins against and start building those good habits, but also balance themselves within the roster and play and energy balance the energy out as well going ahead further into the season. But I want to speak on the Kings game specifically real quick because the Sacramento Kings, yes, Justin mentioned it, winners of their last 5 after firing Mike Brown. They're playing with that newfound motivation of realizing everybody in the situation right now is realizing how tentative of a situation it is, how volatile of a situation it is, especially going towards the trade deadline. They realize, oh, De'Aaron Fox could be gone. And after De'Aaron Fox is gone, could be everybody else as well. And ultimately, the Sacramento Kings, we've seen with the firing of Mike Brown, they're not afraid of getting rid of anybody from that situation there. But the Sacramento Kings, there's a couple of more reasons as to why they'd be a dangerous team for the Celtics to face in this scenario. Number one, the Celtics, they're coming off of a West Coast road trip, in which we already mentioned. And these are the biggest trap games. Coming back home, we think, oh, yeah, back home, here we go, home cooking again. And then ultimately, what happens? Oh, right, we're tired. We're playing complacent. Oh, we're back home. We think we're just going to win by showing up. And then the other team comes in and smokes us. We've seen that many times in the past with the Boston Celtics, maybe with lesser teams, but we've seen it many times. Secondly, the Sacramento Kings play a fast-paced game. And if they're running up and down the floor with the Celtics, that's when we've seen the Celtics just get completely hectic within their offense and even their defense as well. That's when we've seen teams run past the Celtics literally and figuratively from a score perspective because they're playing with pace and the Celtics just cannot slow down the pace of the game and cannot play at their own pace. So the Sacramento Kings, they're going to have a bit of an advantage in that. And from that standpoint, the Celtics, they have to mitigate that advantage in that game. But third, right, this point is going to be ultimately a blast from the past, as we saw from DeAndre Jordan and Russell Westbrook tonight. The Sacramento Kings have DeMar DeRozan. Now, DeMar DeRozan, he's not in his prime by any mean, but he's a Celtics killer. DeMar DeRozan has historically been a Celtics killer, and he knows the Garden floor from playing in Toronto for nearly a decade, being in the division, playing 2 games a year on the Garden floor, and really coming up with some of his career performances on the Garden floor. So DeMar DeRozan being on that team, certainly a new look for the Sacramento Kings, which is probably not going to work in the long run. But in this particular game against the Boston Celtics, there's 3 reasons they have to watch out for the Sacramento Kings. They're coming home cooking, not always great after a West Coast road trip. You get a little bit too complacent. The Sacramento Kings, they're going to play with pace, and they have DeMar DeRozan. I'll add on to that at the end. The Sacramento Kings, they're playing with a newfound motivation, realizing how volatile their entire situation is in Sacramento now that Mike Brown is gone. So there's a lot of reasons as to why this game could be dangerous for the Celtics coming in. And during this last stretch, we've seen the Celtics, if they can turn up that intensity, turn up that energy, go towards the rim, and get all the little details, all the little things down on defense, they should be fine in this game. But last year, we got to remind ourselves against the Sacramento Kings, it took a Xavier Tillman game winner against the Kings to actually pull out that game and beat
Right.
Sacramento last year. So
He hasn't played since.
this year, we gotta watch out for the Kings.
Well,
it is a point to make off of that though, because I think at the same
What were you guys laughing about the whole time? First of all, my goodness. The whole time I was making a point, I'm like, what are y'all laughing about? I'm just gonna keep going.
How does it feel, Seamus, when somebody makes a point and they just start laughing, huh? Every night I give my damn flowers out, you're just over there laughing, giggling, and I'm just sitting there trying to be serious. You're giggling at my flowers, telling me they should be handed out to somebody different. So how does it feel? Huh?
One time.
I just have a couple points to make.
All the other ones we handed out your
Can I
flowers.
have a couple points after that?
Yes, you can.
You know what? No, I'm gonna cat's out of the bag for the audience and Seamus. I'm gonna break it down. What they're laughing about, right? I'm cat's out of the bag, literally. Tonight.
Do not actually bring that cat out of the bag, Franco. Do not.
No. I have to use the bathroom so badly, and I texted them and I was like, hey guys, like when I close out the show, someone make sure you press end stream. I'm gonna go use the bathroom, and then that's right as you started talking, and then you were like, all right, so here's one point, and they're like, and then I got another one, and then there's one more, and I'm sitting over here and I'm like,
I knew it had something to do with the bangs. I'm like, I'm getting them on my phone too, and I'm like, it has something
it was
to do with
literally.
the bangs
I
here.
literally texted like, yo, like guys, like when after I close out the show. But now it's past, so it's like
it's just so hard. And I look down and Franco starts laughing, and after somebody starts laughing,
they can't keep their cool. You guys are terrible at keeping your composure.
Well, it's the worst is when Jack's on, and I can't keep my cool when Jack's on because that's brutal.
Well, On that note, I
But when
guess.
Jack's off, when Jack's off.
All right, we gotta end this.
All right,
show.
you know what? It's 2
2
in the
a.m.
morning.
It's
Screw it.
2 a.m.
Screw it.